Good evening, Mariners fans. Happy Monday, happy Tuesday when this releases. We are through the first full day of the winter meetings, and welcome to episode 102 of the Light DW podcast. As always, I am your host, Mahal, and for today's episode, we are going to be talking about the position of right field and the corner outfield position as a whole for the Seattle Mariners. We'll talk about a potential trade target that, in all ways, really, I think is a perfect fit for the Seattle Mariners team. And it's a guy that's been mentioned profusely by quite a few people. We'll also look at the Dominic Canzone and Victor Robles duo for right field as planned for tomorrow. And we'll dig into a little bit of the Mariners' outfield defense. So, no moves today, but without further ado, let's sound the horn. Okay. Let's begin quickly just before we get into the bulk of today's episode and the outfield position. Just want to quickly mention winter meetings going on today, also tomorrow. And the plan is that if a move does happen for the Mariners, I will record on it. It's finals week also, so there is the possibility that I am in class when a move goes down. But unless I'm in class or doing something specific, I will be hopping on emergency pod type of thing to record and talk about the trade or signing. The most likely of which seems to be Jorge Polanco re-signing. It sounds like he's going to sign during the winter meetings this week. So you got another 2 or 3 days for him to sign. Winter meetings are all day tomorrow and then part of Wednesday, I believe, too. So it sounds like he will sign. The report is from Adam June, Seattle Times, not only that he'll sign, but sounds like his agent wants a 3, if not a 4-year deal. And the Mariners are stuck at a 2, potentially a 3. Does that mean I think the Mariners are out on Jorge Polanco? No, especially because I do think that he is someone that would want to return to the Mariners, and I could see the Mariners doing something similar to what they did with Naylor and being like, okay, we'll lower the AAV a little bit, but we'll add you a 3rd year. So is it something like 3 years, 35, 36 million, which, to be honest, I would be interested in? Or is it a 2-year deal worth $30 million, and then you have an option for a 3rd year at $10 million? Obviously, we won't know till anything goes down. And if Polanco does sign elsewhere, not sure we'll do an emergency pod, but I think I'll probably do a pod this week, assuming I have time, where I talk about some other options. We've already talked about Brandon Lau. We've already talked about Brendan Donovan. So we'll talk about those two a little bit again, but we'll talk about some other guys that might potentially fit the Mariners should Jorge Polanco not return to Seattle in 2026. But today's episode is all about the outfield position. Where I'm going to lead this off with is part of the base of what I want to do is improve the outfield in the corners. Okay, so what we know about this outfield is Julio Rodriguez is an elite defensive outfielder. He had a DRS of 9 last year, which doesn't like him as much as I sort of expected it to. But if you want this for context, remember, Julio Rodriguez, his DRS was 9. That's defensive runs saved. Go look at Julio's Baseball Savant page and look at his outs above average, which accounts more for range, which is what he's really good at. 97th percentile in range. 11 outs above average. Head back to Fangraphs. Let's compare him to some other outfielders. This is something I did with the main trade target that we have today. And because I'm starting with defense, I think you can pretty much assume that the guy I'm bringing in, or want to bring in, is a very, very good defender in the outfield. Right? I think that's probably obvious. So let's go look at outfielders, looking at advanced defensive stuff. Let's go look at DRS. So, Julio Rodriguez, DRS was 9 last year. That ranked tied for 13th among outfielders in baseball. The other guys in the Mariners outfield, Randy Arozarena had DRS of -1. That was 37th. And then I don't think the other two guys were qualified. They didn't play enough innings. But if you want to know what they were at, Canzone, not the greatest defender. -2 DRS, worse than Randy. Robles, -3. So there's this perception that Victor Robles is a better defender than Dominic Canzone. And look, he most definitely is. And outs above average shows that. Canzone, -2, Robles, 0. We'll get into this more later. But the Mariners' defensive corners in the outfield are not good. And again, this is something I'm going to talk about later in the episode after I bring it up, but I want to lead off with this because, for context, Julio Rodriguez is an elite defensive outfielder, an elite defensive center fielder, 97th percentile in outs above average. He is fast AF. He makes a ton of plays, has a good arm. If you give him one corner with another good to elite defensive outfielder, it just plays him up. So think about that when I bring up this guy. And if you haven't guessed already, the guy I'm going to bring up is Steven Kwan. This guy does a little bit of a thing where he goes good season, bad season, good season, bad season. His bad seasons are average seasons. And I'm looking purely at WRC plus for that. So Kwan would have 2 years of control. That's a half year less than Randy Arozarena would have or had when the Mariners acquired him. Estimated $8.5 million hit in 2026. 2027 would be his third year of ARB, and then he would be a free agent. Like I said, Kwan is at worst an average hitter. And he hits for average as well. This is a guy that hits 272, 330, 374 last year, WRC plus a 99, about an 8% walk rate, and about a 9% strikeout rate. Had 11 home runs and was 51st in doubles in baseball, 29. That's a down year for him. He also was 30th in baseball with 21 stolen bases. But that's a down year for Kwan. 2024, 122 games, 4.2 wins on Fangraphs, 4.2 F4, 131 WRC plus. He hit 292, 368, 425 for an OPS barely below 800. 16 doubles, 14 homers. About a 10% walk rate. 9.5% strikeout rate in 2024. He actually walked more than he struck out in terms of percentages in 122 games. Played 156 in 2025. That's closer to a full season. That is a full season. Missed just 6 games, likely due to rest days. But even without his bat being above average, this guy provided a ton of value for the Cleveland Guardians in 2025. That's because in terms of DRS, this is the best outfielder in baseball. Remember what Julio's was? 9. Steven Kwan, 22 defensive runs saved in 2025. That is the best in baseball. That's above Cedon Rafaela, who is known as a defensive wizard in center field. This is Kwan playing in left field as well. He was in the 90th percentile in outs above average and the 100th in arm value. 94th percentile in fielding run value. This is an elite defender in the corners in the outfield. And he has done it in left field mostly for the Guardians. But a 68th percentile arm will more than play in right field for the Mariners. And if you want to compare that to what they've had, Dominic Canzone, in terms of arm value itself, in the 15th percentile. Robles, -2 arm value. These two guys, their arms were legitimately bad in right field for the Mariners in 2025. Like, they were bad. Okay? So you bring in Steven Kwan. I would insert him in right field if you do it. And this is an elite defender with an elite arm in terms of value and well above average arm strength. And he's doing that without the highest sprint speed, just about average. 45th percentile in sprint speed. And he sat around there pretty much his whole career. And this guy is good at a couple things that the Mariners as lineup lacks. They lack guys that are just going to be pesky at bats. And that's what this guy is. 100th percentile in whiff percentage. He does not whiff much at all. The 99th in strikeout percentage. The 84th in expected batting average. Guy that's not going to strike out a lot, strikes out below 10% of the time. And if you thought Naylor didn't strike out a lot, remember that's a guy, his strikeout rate's closer to 13 or 15%. And Kwan strikes out significantly less than even that. This is one of the peskiest at-bats you can get in baseball in the year 2025 or 2026 coming up. You would add a pesky leadoff hitter who plays elite defense and is at the very worst a 3-win player. (2025) Like I mentioned, his WRC plus was 99. That's average, basically. Average is 100. He still put up 3.2 wins because of how elite he is in the outfield. So if you're looking purely at the bat of Steven Kwan, you're like, okay, a 99 WRC plus 2 of the last 3 years. He was a 99 in 2023 as well. Doesn't really hit home runs. Hits decent amount of doubles, but doubles don't play great in T-Mobile Park. OPS was only 700 last year. At its peak, it's maybe 800. But then you add in his value as a defender, and this guy's elite at what he does. He was elite in left field, and he would be plenty good in right field, let me tell you. The things that this guy struggles at: low bat speed, hard hit rate's not that great, barrel percentage not that great, average exit velocity not that great. Those 4 things tend to go in tandem. Everything else, this guy's pretty damn good at. And he wouldn't be cheap trade-wise, don't get me wrong. We'll get into that right at the end. But it's something similar, I think, to what Randy Arozarena costed you. Looking at splits for Steven Kwan, he is a left-handed hitter, so of course you have to look at what he can do left on left. This is something we talked about significantly with Brendan Donovan. 2025, this guy struggled more against lefties. He was a 65 WRC plus and a 115 against righties. Let's go back a year, 2024. Steven Kwan was, that's right, a 145 WRC plus against lefties and a 120 5 against righties. Pardon me. He hit 319, 392, 447 against lefties in 81 games and 141 at-bats. Let's go back another year. 2023, his sophomore season in baseball. One where he took a step back after a really good rookie season. He hit 260, had 1 home run, 13 doubles, 200 at-bats, 94 games, WRC plus of 88. So at the worst, yeah, he's going to maybe be below average against lefties, but he's above average against righties every year of his career. And to me, that's a really attractive guy to lead off for you. If opening day were tomorrow, who is leading off for the Seattle Mariners in 2026? I don't know, to be honest. And I don't know who it should be. There's nobody really that fits that prototype of a classic leadoff hitter. It doesn't have to be a classic leadoff hitter, but to me, Julio strikes out too much, doesn't quite walk enough. Randy, too streaky. Crawford, not good enough. Cal's not. Naylor's not. So, I mean, I don't even know who I would have leadoff if tomorrow were opening day. If you acquire Steven Kwan, though, I think you know who's leading off 162 games. It's Steven Kwan. Your lineup would have Steven Kwan, Julio Rodriguez, Cal Raleigh coming off a 60-homer season, Josh Naylor and Randy Arozarena at the top. And theoretically, Kwan wouldn't take away from a chance to go acquire a Jorge Polanco, costing you just $8.5 million. That's something I think the Mariners would be all over and should be all over. They should do their due diligence here. And if you're not doing your due diligence because you're like, oh, Dom Canzone, or oh, Victor Robles, or oh, Dom Canzone and Victor Robles, let me remind you that currently those guys are both in your lineup. And we'll get into those guys. But Kwan is such a fun fit, improving your corner outfield defense drastically, and is at least an average bat at the very top of your lineup. And if you want to talk about right field for the Mariners in 2025 defensively, newsflash, it was hot trash. They ranked 25th in DRS from right fielders last year, with -10 defensive runs saved. Steven Kwan in left field had 32 more defensive runs saved than the right field position in 2025 for the Seattle Mariners. That is incredibly huge value just with his glove. And right field is an important part of T-Mobile Park because of the right center gap. If you close down the right center gap at T-Mobile Park with your center fielder and your right fielder, it's going to be damn hard to hit doubles in that stadium. Damn hard. And Steven Kwan and Julio Rodriguez roaming the right center gap, not many freaking balls are going to drop, y'all. And Randy isn't that great of an outfielder, but he's okay. And if you have him in left field with Julio and Kwan at the other two positions, that is a damn good defensive outfield. Damn good. So you can see why I think Kwan is a fantastic fit for the Seattle Mariners. If you want to talk about trade costs, I think it's going to be roughly similar to what Randy Arozarena was. And Randy was basically 2 top 100 prospects. I don't think either were ranked there, Brody Hopkins nor Aiden Smith, when the trade happened. But the Tampa Bay Rays were very high on both those guys. And for the sake of this, I'm going to put a Steven Kwan trade package that I think is even beyond what Randy Rosarena's was. And I'm going to do something that I don't know if Cleveland would decline. I'm going to offer Durangelo Sanger and Felnin Celestin. Do we think the Cleveland Guardians would decline that? And if you're the Mariners, would you do that for 2 years of Steven Kwan, who feels like a guy that maybe you could even extend? Man, I think I would fricking do that trade. I think I would do that trade about 10 times out of 10. And I like Sanger, and I think he's fun. And I think Felnin Celestin has a high-ass ceiling. And that's a trade that could potentially bite you. But sometimes you got to go do those. If you're telling me it's Kwan, Julio, Cal, Naylor, Randy at the top of your lineup with the potential of Colt Emerson breaking out as a rookie, or Cole Young breaking out in his sophomore season, or Dom Canzone continuing closer to what he did with a 141 WRC plus in 82 games in 2024-5. That lineup is dangerous, and it improves your defense, which is a piece of your team that you desperately do need to improve. And it's not just the infield defense that people always talk about, it's also the outfield defense. If not for Julio Rodriguez, that outfield would be atrocious defensively. So Durangelo Sanger, Felnin Celestin, are you doing that trade? I think I am. Should we go do another package? Let's go look at the Mariners' top prospects. Let's do 2 different players just for the fun of it. Say it's Michael Arroyo and Luke Stevenson, Yorger Batista. I mean, let's say Luke Stevenson and Michael Arroyo. Again, I'm doing that. I think Sanger and Celestin is better than that. Would you give up Laz Montes? Would Laz Montes tie Pete be a trade you'd do for Steven Kwan? It's a risky one. Would you do it? This is the type of thing you ought to think about. I'm thinking about 2 guys that rank in basically the top 10 for the Mariners, and I'm not including any of Emerson, Anderson, or Sloan. And I'd be very hesitant to be including Johnny Farmello in that either. The rest of it, I think you could do 2 of any of the rest of them, and it'd be interesting. I don't think it'd be Montes and a guy like Arroyo or Sanger, but would you do Montes and Sanger? Would you? And Montes is fun as hell. But if they were like, man, if you're not going to do any of Emerson, Anderson, or Sloan, we want Montes. And you're not going to do Farmello, we want Montes. Are you like, man, I don't think we can part with Montes? In a win now window for the Seattle Mariners, I think Laz Montes for Steven Kwan would get done. At least in my personal opinion. And that's coming from someone that is generally a prospect hugger, but I'm trying to ease off of that this offseason. And I think that's even maybe beyond, potentially, what Rosarena netted. And you have to remember, Rosarena was 2.5 years of him. It's very difficult to know what a package would look like. But if the package, again, is 2 of your top 10 guys not named Farmello, Emerson, Sloan, or Cade Anderson, I'm doing it. I'm 100% doing it. I'm hitting the accept button. I'm smashing the accept button. That trade is done Tuesday of the winter meetings, and we're moving on to other priorities that might include Jorge Polanco as well, and might include trading Victor Robles. And if they're like, we want Victor Robles because we want a major leaguer as well, you're like, Sanger, Robles, Ty Pete. Sanger, Robles, Celestin. Would you do that? Would you throw Robles in there? And you get maybe like a mid reliever for them as well? What if you make it bigger and you're like, okay, let's look at your bullpen, right? You're like, let's you go to Cleveland, hop on the phone. You're like, Oi, Cleveland, we want Steven Kwan. And they're like, okay, well, we want Victor Robles because we want someone we can insert into our major league lineup. And we want Durangelo St. So we get a pitching prospect and we want a hitting prospect in it. How about Felnine Celestin? You're like, okay. We're like, we'll do that if you add a Tim Herron or a Connor Brogdon. Or there's someone else over there maybe that the Mariners like. Do I think that Brogdon or either of those guys make the most sense? Probably not. But do I think you're getting like Hunter Gaddis from them in that scenario? Probably not. Probably not. But would you do Kwan and Gaddis and give up Montez St. and another piece that's pretty up there, Celestin, dare I say, for Hunter Gaddis, who's a very, very good reliever. Like a very good reliever from the right side. And you also throw in Victor Robles. So the Robles, Montez St. and Celestin for Gaddis and Kwan. I think you would have to do that, and that'd be a blockbuster type of deal. Gaddis has a ton of control. I don't know if Cleveland would trade him. I kind of doubt it. But this is a very good reliever. Very good reliever. 27 years old. And they're like, let's refresh. St. We could see him in 2026 late, but maybe 2027. Montez, same thing. Those two guys, same type of idea. Maybe Robles finds something that he had in 2024 with the more healthy season. I think if you're the Mariners, you'd have to do that. But quickly, let's get into Dom Canzone and Victor Robles because I haven't gotten into them yet, and I've been just bugging on about Kwan. Canzone, 82 games, put up a win and a half on Fangraphs. He hit 300, 358, 481 with an 840 OPS. Yes, that's right. He had almost an 850 OPS, a 141 WRC plus. He had 11 home runs, 11 doubles. Struck out just 22% of the time. Walked just 7% of the time, 7.5%. We talked about his defense already, not the greatest defender. But he improved with his whiff rate. His whiff rate went down 8% and his barrel rate went up 3%. Not the greatest runner. His pull side is to the power from the left side, and he was split proof from what he did. He had a 113 WRC plus against lefties and just 58 at bats, but when he saw them, he was good. Okay. And he hit at T-Mobile Park, a 121 WRC plus. But can he carry that over into next season? That is the deep question. It's similar to what Robles did, in my opinion, in 2024. Robles put up 3 wins, basically. 141 WRC plus. Was injured in 25, negative F-WAR. Was below average as a hitter, 75 WRC plus. And his defensive value dropped off into the negative in terms of DRS. Outs above average, he was about average, and it was similar. Arm strength was still there, but can Robles' bat return to that closer to the 141 WRC plus? Can Robles put up a 110 WRC plus, and can Canzone put up a 110, 115 at least WRC plus? Question is, can one of those two things happen? And yes, it's possible. Canzone being the more likely of the two, I think. But to me, I don't want to bet on that. And if I can go get Steven Kwan, who's also really good defensively, and that floor is 3 wins, I'm damn well doing it. Damn well doing it. I talked about the Mariners' outfield defense as a whole. You want to talk about outs above average. Left field, they were -5. That's 17th. Right field, 21st. -6 outs above average. Right field, defensively, was a big issue for the Mariners. You actually saw it in the postseason a little bit. More so with the arm. I mean, there were multiple runners at the plate that the Mariners probably could have thrown out had Steven Kwan been out there. You get my point, though. I think everyone understands how much I think Steven Kwan and how well I think he fits this club as soon as, like, now, like next year. But I don't think the Mariners are going to trade for him. They don't seem to be involved in the outfield market, but I think they should be. And if they can't go get Ketel Marte, Brendan Donovan via trade, I think they should be all over Steven Kwan, because I think a big trade for this team would do wonders. And Steven Kwan is the definition of a big trade. And for just 2 years of him, I think the cost would be something you could very easily stomach. Would Cleveland trade him? There's been talk that they would. Why would they? It's tough to know. But if he's out there and available for what I think a reasonable cost would be for 2 years, I think you got to go damn well do it. Either way, I'm hoping Jorge Polanco gets done for the Mariners in the next couple days. I hope it's here and not elsewhere. And if you can have Polanco alongside Ferrer and Naylor already this season, or this offseason, it's a damn well offseason that you can build on over the next couple months, and it'd be done before Christmas. This will be released Tuesday, December 9th. I'm recording this Monday, December 8th at 9 p.m. It's 9:15 almost now. Longer episode, but it was a fun one. I will be back for sure on Thursday. Got a little special guest appearance that'll become a regular guest of the pod. So we'll introduce you guys there on Wednesday. Or on Thursday, sorry. That should be out about midday, maybe early afternoon. This will be out 6 a.m. PST, Tuesday, December 9th. Winter meetings. Day 2 begins tomorrow. Hopefully we get some moves. But till then, thank you guys so much for listening to episode 102 of the Light the W podcast. Till next time, go M's and peace.